Hello everyone, my name is Mekkah, and you're watching chapter 14 of my Fire Emblem Thracia 776 Ironman playthrough. This chapter will be done in post-commentary instead of live commentary because it's a very long defend map that doesn't really have a whole lot happening, so I'm just watching the chapter that I just played. Normally I wouldn't do this kind of commentary for an Ironman run, but I think it just fits better. So here's the units I'm bringing. I'm not gonna name them all because I can't keep up with the cursor. But if you've seen Don's clear of this chapter, then you'll notice a certain resemblance of the units that I'm bringing and the kind of strategy I'm employing. So let's sit through the story for a little bit. And by sit through, I mean admire. Okay, so I'll go over the strategy for a little bit, explain in general what's going on, and then I'm going to resort to my huge list of topics that I compiled to talk about for the rest of the hour that this chapter is going to take. So right here I'm taking a look at the bosses real quick because they are a big threat. One of them is Baldaki as a horse slayer and a Masterland, so he's pretty threatening. And Paul's a Baron, he stands still, but together these guys provide like 7 leadership stars and they're pretty strong, so even trying to kill him is a risk already. You can see that this is a map where you gotta defend the castle that Leaf is at, and if any enemy reaches that spot, it's game over. But there's a couple choke points you can utilize as long as you're careful about the ballista ranges, because the ballistas are pretty strong and they cover a wide range of the map, of course. But if you put your units in the right spot, then you can trivialize the map for the most part. Now the first thing I'm doing here is I'm moving Inanna with the Elite Sword to recruit Homer from the house that's closest to her in the upper right. With the Paragon Sword she has 11 defense, which is just enough to survive 2 hits from both of these ballistas. And that will make for a fairly safe recruitment. I could also have dismounted Nana and a rescue dropped her, but this took less resources of other units. I like this convo. I like it when the general flirt character is being called out on being dumbasses. Yeah, so Homer says he's not very strong, but he can be pretty strong if you train him up. He's a level 5 bard that joins pretty late into the game, honestly, but he's still pretty good because he has Paragon and a 5% critical. So he has a pretty good amount of setups. Bard is basically mage, but with a light rank. And he still promotes it to Sage, which alone makes him viable for Thracia. Example of a guaranteed crit with him is if he doubles with the Light Tome, but he does need a bit of training. Now you get 2 other units here. Dean is like a pre-promoted Dragon Knight. He's one of the best units in the game, especially if you only take the mid-game into account. Like, his only real drawback is that he joins only halfway through and that he has the dismount indoors, but he's just such a good unit. He has like, I think it's 3 pursuit critical. I always confuse this. He's like a flying Fergus, basically. He has a support with Ada, the other Draco Knight that joined, that's near Leaf right now. Ada is basically, like, kind of bad. You know, she's not that bad. I think she's kind of underrated, actually, but that's just by virtue of being a flyer with usable stats. She joins in a chapter where she can be trained. So they're both pretty usable, but Dean especially is going to be great, and I'm going to be very careful with him. Because, you know, I lost Karen, so I better make good use of these flyers. So I'm visiting these houses that are all over the city. Danon didn't do this, but these houses unlock the Gaiden chapters, or just the Gaiden chapter 14X, which is the chapter right after this. And I think you gotta visit 3 or more, and each house represents one civilian that's sick of Tara and wants to run away. And you'll see them run away in 14X, so you gotta save them, make sure they survive their escape. And for every one of the escapes you get an S-drink, so I think it's worth it to try and visit as many as I safely can. But it's not always easy, because all these houses are like in blister range. But it's doable, so it's fine. Now the general strategy is going to be to place 3 mounted units on choke points right outside of the blister ranges. And then hold up the armor knights that are coming up, and then I'll just keep them high on health with my healers and vulneraries, and I'll have them hold scrolls so that they don't get crit. And I won't give them weapons, and that way they won't counter, and that way they won't make room for more enemies and unexpectedly get killed. But before all these armors come in, I take advantage of the space I have to visit the houses, and that way I don't have to visit the houses when it's harder, when I'm like surrounded by armor knights, because right now, outside of the city walls, there's like a huge group of armor knights on each side, and then there's one on the south as well, where Baldak is. So I think that just about covers it for now for the general purpose of this map, for the general strategy. You'll see what it is exactly later. So I'm just gonna delve into... well, I guess I'll talk about this. So I'm giving Tina the skill ring so that she stops missing. Or at least that's the idea, right? Because she had 1 skill. I talked about this in Tina's unit review. And I'm also going to give Fergus the shield ring because I expect him to face a lot of front lines. Action, he has the leg ring. So he has like above average movement, and his durability is pretty good, but he's not invincible or anything. So I thought he'd be a good candidate for the shield ring. That kind of unit is always the one you want to be giving defensive stat boosters to, the ones that are like seeing action on the front line. I'm very glad that even Mangs has realized this by now, and because he keeps repeating it, more new players will see this and realize that giving your Draco Shields and Angelic Robes to like defensively frail units is not the best idea ever. Instead, you should give it to units who need to take a lot of hits over the course of the game. So yeah, I guess I'll talk a little bit about why I'm doing post-commentary, and it's not just this chapter. Well, it is mostly for this chapter, but you'll remember when I played Void Splitter Adventure, if you saw that LP, that halfway through I switched to post-commentary, and that was like a huge relief for me actually, because it's so much easier to do post-commentary. It's a bit more work sometimes in editing because I have to like render the video, watch it while doing commentary, and so I have to basically go through recording twice. But it's so much more relaxing because multitasking is just so hard. Like everyone gives Mangs a lot of crap for playing Fire Emblem badly, and you know, fair enough. I mean, he is really bad at sometimes, but one thing Mangs is really good at is just talking out of his ass while he's playing, and it doesn't really seem to interfere with his actions a whole lot. Like, I don't know. And actually, when you watch Mangs play a chapter that he's planned out, like, I don't know, maybe you'll remember that Detector mode only chapter late in the game where he gets Armads. He had like a strategy pre-planned out, and he knew like all the moves to make. So that just shows you what huge difference it makes when you can plan your strategy in nice and peace and quiet, and just play Fire Emblem off screen, basically, to try things out, and then commentate over it. That's just so much easier. The 30% of their brain is like a meme, but it's also true. It's such a huge difference. And for me, I felt the same when I did Void, and I felt the same for this chapter. It's just so much easier to focus, where you don't have to think of interesting things to say. Sometimes you can just narrate what you're doing, and that will make for interesting commentary for people who haven't played the game, or for people who are just kind of half watching it, half doing something else. That's like fine. Oh, by the way, Edda is visiting this shop here to get a couple of S-drinks. I sold a bunch of stuff to get me some S-drinks, but I don't need these many done because I'm probably gonna get some S-drinks for next chapter from the civilians that will escape. And I also got one from a thief and one from a house, and Homer comes with one. And in general, I will need less S-drinks because my unit requirements are less tight, I think. And I can work around fatigue a little better than the 0% growth thing. If nothing else, because my units will actually gain HP upon leveling up. So, I just wanted to cover that. But Edda does need to be careful there, because she dies to the ballistas. Unless she's dismounted, then she gets 2 KO'd, which is still very bad. Pretty sure that the shop is in range of 2 ballistas. I guess I might as well mention that I was trying to find ways for Dean to visit the house in the bottom right, because that's where you can get Resire from a house. But I couldn't really find a safe way to get him there. I forgot to bring Warp on Safi. I think if I brought it, I would have warped him over to get it, because Resire is pretty good, but Resire is mostly good for a character that we're getting next chapter, Lenoan. You've seen her appear in cutscenes already. But I already gave Wrath to Nana instead of Lenoan, and for that reason, Wrath isn't as good on Lenoan, because the idea is Lenoan gets hit, and then she uses Resire, which is the same thing as Nosferatu from like Awakening or FE4 or whatever. You probably know the HP draining tone, basically. So the idea is that you take a hit, and then you get a critical hit, Nosferatu hit, on the counter, and then you're back to full HP, you kill the enemy, and you repeat infinitely. But since I already have Wrath on Nana, I can't really use that combo, and it's not as good without Wrath. So I don't mind missing out too much. You might expect me to try and find a way for Dean to visit the bottom left house if you're familiar with the game, because that has a Dragon Lance, which only he can get. It's his personal weapon, and only by visiting it with Dean can you get it, but that house is in range of at least 1 ballista, as well as the boss, who has like a Tornado Tome, and I think it's like a Master Axe. And there's also a bunch of Killer Lance Knights there. It's just not a very safe area for him to go. So I decided to just not go for the houses. I thought I might go for Resire if I could find a safe way to do it, but the thing is, Baldak, that guy that's near Tara, near the south wall, he has a killer bow, I believe, some kind of bow, and I think he one-shots Dean. And he also has a movement star, so I can't really place Dean safely anywhere. He's like also afraid of the ballistas, of course, and kind of the mages, but really the main board is the boss. So I didn't feel like either of those items were worth the risks or the resources it would take to get them. I think Warp alone I would have been fine to use to get Resire, but I'm also fine with saving a Warp use, especially since I'm still not sure which route I'm going. You can see Tina here, she misses 2 heals in 1 turn, really great. It shows that emotional roller coaster that I was talking about when I introduced Tina. But it's alright, because I have Salem as backup. You'll also notice I deployed Olwen, because I want to get her to Bolting A rank. Or I want to get her to A rank Thunder so she can use Bolting. I'm not recruiting Ilios since I don't have Karen. And she's like the only other early character that can get Bolting. And since I have a couple of Boltings in my convoy, I figured it would be a good use of my time here, since Olwen can just one round KO any armor knight. You know, Olwen is not that bad once trained. She has some uses, you just need to be very careful where you put her. Same with Selfina. I might train her. I don't know. The problem is, besides this problem right here where I placed Tina in Ballista range and I don't really have a good spot to drop her, so she's gonna miss an action next turn. The problem is, I want to use so many of these units, like I want to use Merida, I want to use Selfina, I want to use Salem, I want to use Lenoan, I want to use, well, not Lenoan, that's a different story, but I want to use Sarah, I want to use Homer, but I'm actually very low on light proofs. I have one in my convoy. I'm gonna get another on the route split if I manage to get it. And that's about it for quote-unquote early night proofs. Everything else is like gone. I missed one on the chapter 10 boss because I forgot to steal it. I missed one last chapter because it was in a house on an island beneath a bolting bishop. And I didn't have a flyer, so I would have to use a warp to get it. So I'm really not sure who to use my last night proof on for now. I know I want to give the route split one to... Well, I think I want to use one on Salem for sure. And then the other one on either, you know, Merida or Nana. Nana works fine unpromoted, but I still want to promote her for the extra movement and combat ability. Nana hasn't really been doing a whole lot of combat lately though. Anyway, you can see these Armor Knights are coming in, and the strategy is going to be... you see the two Duke Knights, Glade and Finn. Right now they are in the wrong spot actually. Finn is going to go in the bottom, and Glade is going to go to the upper right, and Fergus is going to wall the upper left. I have Fred as a stand-in, and all these can take like multiple hits from Armor Knights, Bow Armors, Mages, whatever. They also have pretty good avoid. Selfina is here to support Glade. Leaf and Nana support Finn, and then Leaf also has the Kingsword, and Nana has Charisma, so Finn is going to be really dodgy. Fergus isn't supported by anyone, but he has that shield ring, and just a lot of durability in general, so they're all going to be fine. So they're just going to wall the heck out of everyone, and that's really the reason I'm keeping animations off right now. It's just I don't want to sit through that all day. It's already an hour-long video. But yeah, post-commentary is just, it's so relaxing. I'm definitely going back to live commentary after this because I think the Ironman needs live commentary, but you know, me having to play and think at the same time is how you get things like me saying nice like 20,000 times in a video. Sometimes it's just very hard to think of anything to say other than what you've already been saying a bunch of times. And what also helps is if I'm not commentating, there's like much less pressure on your brain to think of stuff, and you can really focus on the game. And I already said that kind of, but the point is, you know, when Mangs does an LP, I'm sorry for keep bringing Mangs into this, but you'll see where I'm going soon. When Mangs does an LP, and basically everyone in Twitch chat or everyone in the comment section is basically, oh, let's watch Mangs fuck up because he's bad at Fire Emblem and that's funny. That's his gimmick. That's his character. Completely cool. I don't have such a gimmick. When I fuck up, it's more like, oh, you fucked up, that was kind of stupid. We expect better from you, basically. I'm not saying like I've never claimed to be a Fire Emblem guru or anything. That's what some people make of it, but I'm not so amazing at Fire Emblem that I could just beat FE5 without deaths, obviously. But for the last 2 chapters, I've missed out on like a unit. And we'll get to that in a little bit. And I felt really bad because, you know, I expect better from myself as well. So I hate fucking up so much. It sucks so much. And like for Mangs, it's like natural. Everyone expects Mangs to just, you know, screw up almost every time. But for me, it's like I don't mind making mistakes, but I don't want to hurt my own perception, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's just. But last chapter's death was really hard on me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you've heard my live reaction. I'm not really about hilarious reactions or overreacting or whatever. I try to be just real when I'm recording myself. So, what you heard was me just being flabbergasted, like, I just got a dude killed, and I'm not gonna lie, I was pissed off. I was so mad that I lost basically the defining character of my run, Ronan. Like, I built a connection with this guy, and it's weird because the guy has like no lines. You know, his character was entirely made up, almost. Because like all we know from Thracia about Ronan is, well, he's a guy from a village, and he wanted to get rid of the pirates, and now he's still with the army for some reason, even though Lithus is in it too, who is like the whole reason that he joined the army to begin with, is to beat Lithus and get rid of the pirate threats to this village and his mom. But he had like so much movement, and he was grown from like a really weak archer to, you know, the reason we managed to fulfill a lot of side objectives and do a lot of cool stuff. It was like half meme and half real. it's indescribable. But in a way, I am very glad that there have been deaths in this run. I'm very glad it's not just Mekkah playing every chapter flawlessly, because that would be boring, okay? I mean, I hate fucking up, but this Ironman run, I said this in chapter 4, like, I have never felt so alive playing Fire Emblem than since I started this run for like several years, because it's so much more intense and so much more, you know, it's really an experience. You're really like, oh man, if I screw up here, this unit is gone. Like, again, Mangs comparison, but whatever. If Mangs fucks up, it's like, oh, another Mangs math, oh, so bad. I guess I'll just reset and try again. For me, it's literally just, okay, I fucked up and now this unit might be gone. For the rest of the run, they're just gone. It's done. And, you know, I think Kaiga already intended for this game to be like Ironman's, just like most of the Fire Emblems before that, which is why they offer like replacement units and everything, and why FE6 also has a lot of extra replacement characters of like the same class, even though they're worse and joining later, like OJ compared to Deke, because Fire Emblem was kind of designed to be like not resettable. And this is why I really hope the series stays true to that formula of like having classic be the intended mode and not be designed around casual mode, because oh my god, this is so intense. It's not just your work is done, like your work is gone when you're replaying the chapter or when you have to reset because you screwed up once. It's like you have to change the way your run works in the future because one of your characters died. And I've had to change like several strategies already because, you know, one of my important units is gone, you know? Karen wasn't there in chapter 10 to get me the bottom houses, so I had to use a weird rescue chain to have Lithus steal a bridge key. And then I had to kill the Fire Sword Armor Knight. I couldn't capture him because I couldn't risk missing. So I had to kill that Armor Knight, get him out of the way, do some other weird rescue shenanigans to get Ronan in front with the bridge key. And then make sure I make it to the house in time because I really want that item from the village. And I had to make sure my deployment slots were alright so that one of my units could visit the top house before the thief got there. I had to make so many contingency plans, and this wouldn't have been possible in like a classic or even a casual playthrough because, you know, you could just reset if things go wrong, and it's so amazing. I would really anyone recommend doing like some kind of Ironman run. I know there's like people playing along with my run. So yeah. That's really all I gotta say about that, I guess. But I'm still mad about Ronan's death because he was kind of a differentiating factor between my runs. I've used most of the characters in this run before. In fact, I think I've used everyone before in like a full playthrough, including like people like Selfina, Marita, and Homer. I've used all these people. I had never trained Ronan before, so I'm hoping to fill that gap somehow, but it's going to be difficult. Also, the song that I used, that episode isn't out yet the moment I'm recording this. It's going up tonight in like 7 hours, so I'm wondering how it will be received. I feel really bad about it. It sucks so much. Anyway, I have like half an hour left to talk about random stuff. I was worried I wouldn't be able to fill up this hour, but it's going smoothly so far. Don't worry if I say a lot. I didn't want to script this, so I'm just speaking from the heart, as they say. So, some people have asked me like, hey Mekkah, what do you think about Thracia finally being represented in Heroes, the Thracia banner and stuff? Well, I don't really like Heroes, so I don't really try to talk about it too much, but it's kind of hard to avoid at this point when I literally made a Thracia banner during a Let's Play of Thracia, so I'll just briefly go over it. The fact that they made Olwen and Reinhardt again is completely stupid, and they shouldn't have done it, but I think that's pretty obvious for most people. Like, there's so many Thracia characters waiting for representation that they chose 2 characters already in the game. Like, what? At least it did, like, leave Dana and Finn. That's the minimum we could have hoped for. The thing is, like, I'm happy to have representation of some sort, but it took way too long to do it, to the point where I'm like, they don't really seem to have confidence in Thracia, appealing to people enough to where they will spend money on it. And as much as I like them having representation, it's also more like, okay, more of my favorite characters are being used as cash cows, basically. I don't like that all that much. You know, I don't like the business model of Heroes. I haven't made a secret of that. And in a way, I'm kind of sad that Thracia is now part of it. And I actually had a pretty interesting and healthy discussion with this on the writer's chat that Mangs uses. Whenever he has like a character spotlight, he posts a script there. And then me and a bunch of other people, like Sonagi and Helio-san and Mina, we look at the script and fix it because Mangs is dumb and makes a lot of errors. And I think I was the only one who was like anti-heroes basically, and everyone else is like fine with it. Helio-san was kind of on the middle. He's like, yeah, good points, but I don't know. I won't try to speak for him. That's probably kind of rude. Anyway, what it comes down to is like, basically Mangs' entire point against this, and he's made like a response video to me, so I think it's fair to respond to his points a little more here. I think it's fair to say that, like, yeah, everyone has their own responsibility, but I think it's wrong to have a model that exploits irrationality, while at the same time saying everyone should behave responsibly. It feels like you're basically saying, okay, everyone should be responsible, but don't be responsible for this business model, because if everyone was responsible, the gacha model, it doesn't work. Like, the way it is structured now, they need the whales, they need the 1% or the 0.1% of people to like splurge on it. And sure, a lot of these people are like financially responsible or like financially independent to the point where they can afford to make those kind of purchases. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, by the way, maybe watch any video on gacha model or my own video on Fire Emblem Heroes and why I don't support it. Anyway, the point I'm making here is that, number one, yeah, sure, some people can afford it. Not everyone is like a poor addicted whale or whatever. Some people are just so rich that they can afford to do it, but that doesn't really change the ethics of like exploitation all that much, or at all, does it? I mean, if someone is rich, do they deserve to be exploited because they can afford it? I don't really agree with that kind of stance. And, you know, there's like no reason why this model should be supported by people as something good. I remember on the subreddit, the Heroes subreddit, sometimes there's like this thread of some guy being like, okay, guys, I need to stop playing Heroes, so I'm deleting the app because I realized I have a problem, I can't afford it anymore, I'm getting behind on rent, I have a gambling problem, I shouldn't be doing this, etc. And everyone is like super supportive and being like, yeah, good for you, gacha is a terrible model, so don't feel too bad, just get help. And that strikes me as like, I don't want to say hypocritical, but it's kind of a strange stance to take when you're still supporting a game that like does a model that you also say is abhorrent. Like, if you're only supporting Heroes despite your hate for gacha because it has Fire Emblem on it, well, maybe don't support something you're against. Maybe don't let don't let Fire Emblem be used to uphold this model. That's what I think, anyway. I mean, like, I have no interest in playing Heroes to begin with, so it's easy for me to say all this, but I just really, really hate what gacha stands for and what it's done to the mobile market in general. So yeah. That basically is the sour taste of whatever is accompanied of, well, the sour taste that accompanies whenever I talk about Heroes. So something else I want to talk about is unit ratings, and not just because a couple people on my channel. By the way, Fort Mangs has a Mekkah's prison cell channel. And it's really fun to hang out. I love talking to people there whenever I have nothing to do. I just read that chat and see if I have something to respond to. I just like talking to people who watch my stuff. It's fun. It's weird, but it's fun. Anyway. I saw some guy that posted, like, not a tier list, but like a list of ratings. It was in Spanish. It's like basically a 1 to 5 star rating of every character in FE7 and FE8, I think it was. And it had like classic weird ratings that you'd expect of people that haven't really been in touch with I don't want to say like the elitist part of the community or whatever, or the good part of the community, but you know what I mean. People who think Marcus isn't very good because God knows what reason. It didn't have reasons with it, just ratings. And it was like Marcus is bad. Even Pent was bad. Louise was better than Pent apparently. That was kind of weird. But things like pre-promotes in general are bad. Hector's really good. Eliwood is mediocre. Lyn is good. Stuff like that. And those were mostly classic misconception ratings, but it got me thinking for a moment, what's really, like, what does it matter if some people think a bad unit is good, or a unit that's bad in the eyes of like a more advanced player? What does it matter if they think they're good? And in general, I've been structuring and writing pitfalls so that it's like, it doesn't really matter. Also, that's a very poor positioning for Edda, and you're gonna see why in a couple of seconds. I've been thinking, like, what does it matter if someone thinks a bad unit is good? What does it matter if someone thinks Lyn is like the best thing since sliced bread, even though for like good players she really can't really do all that much, and she's more effort than she's worth. And I think the difference is really, does it make the game harder if you use her or not? Like, does it really impede you from doing what you would normally do? Does she make the game harder, basically, to use? I think the answer is yes. I think Lyn is more trouble than she's worth. I think it's easier to not train Lyn and to just have her sit in a corner whenever she's force deployed and do nothing. But you know, these people don't agree because, well, they did use Lyn and they liked using her. They probably had their first playthrough on normal mode, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot if you use Lyn or not. But sometimes people who are like in touch with the online community and know enough about you know, how Fire Emblem is, well, like, people who know about LTC playthroughs, people who know about speedruns, people who know of like tier lists made by people who are so good at Fire Emblem that they have a whole different perception of things. People who know that Marcus is good, basically, they tend to kind of overrate the importance of knowing what a good unit is, to the point where they'll go to someone and be like, hey man, did you know that this unit that you're using is actually a bad unit? And I think that's, it doesn't really cross a line, but it's like unnecessary. You know, you should always let people just do whatever they want. There was a thread on, I think, Ask Reddit a while ago, like a subreddit where people just ask questions and talk about stuff. And there was some guys recalling their experience of playing FE7 being like, oh man, Oswin would like totally kick the ass for me. He could beat anything. And he was like invincible, and he was pretty fast too. And one guy tagged me and was like, hey Mekkah, what do you think of this stuff? You should like go over there and destroy these people or something. Like, not really. It's not really what he said, but kind of the gist of that. And I was like, well, it's just people recounting their experience playing FE7 and having a good time. There's no need to go in there and say, well, actually, Oswin is just a mid-tier character who isn't really all that good once you're like good at Fire Emblem. You know, he only has like 4 or 5 move, and his durability is overkill. Like, there's no. Oh, by the way, I got a movement level up on Assault. Totally awesome. I'm very glad. That actually scared me because a lot of people who have been getting movement level ups have also been dying. Yeah. Anyway, it's like the new Nice almost. But yeah. So don't be a fun killer, basically. Just let people do whatever they want. Only when they're being like deceptive, or when they're giving bad advice to the point that people are gonna follow that bad advice, like people telling others to train Amelia. You're like, feel free to tell them, like, yeah, that's probably not good advice for a new player. Be nice about it. Don't give that elitist vibe of, you're doing it wrong, here's how to do it right, there's only one way to play Fire Emblem. Don't do that. Ever. Just, you know, be nice. Don't be a dick. But yeah, I've been thinking, like, what's the value of actually being quote-unquote good at Fire Emblem? What does it matter if you can solve a chapter in 10 turns or in 5 turns if someone else can do it in 40 turns and get the same end result? You know, they beat the game. And don't forget that casual players have a different goal in mind when playing Fire Emblem. They're not just thinking, okay, I start this game as chapter 1 or a prologue, because FE loves using the word prologue, even when it doesn't make sense, but different topic, different time. But people aren't just thinking, how can I get from the beginning to the end of the game? They're thinking, I want to build an army, I want to train up units, I want to see them level up, I want to see all these nice screens. You know, I talked about this in Pitfalls. I want to use this character Nino because she seems really cool, and I want to train her up. And that's why the wiki is also filled with like pitfalls and misconceptions and stuff, because it's less based on what character is good and easy to use, and it's more like, okay, how does a character turn out if you try your best at making them good, and what does it take? And for some characters that means, you know, scroll abuse, boss abuse, arena abuse, tower grinding. No, I fucked up again. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a bond with Edda or anything, but this pissed me off. This was a really bad positioning error. So I'm gonna play 14x with one flyer, apparently. It's not gonna be pretty. All because I just captured one mage for a Thunder Tome and then put her in a really bad place. And I get that you fucked up music for it too. Really great. Sucks. But, you know, another structural reorganization of my strategy for next chapter, I suppose. But it sucks. Where was I? I was talking about like unit ratings, but I forgot exactly what I was saying. But you get the point, hopefully. Oh yeah, people were like... Basically, people make recommendations based on how to use a unit if you really want to use them. Whereas, you know, more savvy players, they tend to make recommendations based on, you know, how good is this unit if you really want to compare them in a fair way. But most casual players, they aren't really interested in being fair to every unit. They're more, or being optimal or anything. They're more interested in, if you want to use this unit, how would you do your best to make them viable? And if you have to like put a bunch of effort in, like if you have to arena abuse, like you wouldn't believe how many people lately have been posting in my comment section like, oh my god, General Amelia is so good. Like, it's tons of them. It's ridiculous. I didn't know there were this many Amelia fans in the world. I think it's because that the video that I post on is like the FA8 promotion guide. It just attracts so many people who are relatively new to Fire Emblem. Like most of my subscribers, I think, have leaked in from Mangs, so they're pretty familiar with the Amelia as bad and all the memes attached to it. And it's just... there's a whole fandom out there that thinks very differently than the way you probably do, or the way I probably do. And that's fine. I just want to help these people, you know, maybe get a little better at Fire Emblem, basically. And it's fine if they're not interested in that, but I just want to prevent them from spreading like misconceptions. That's all. Okay. Something else I want to talk about a little bit, while I still have time, is Fire Emblem Warriors. I talked about this in that little rant about why Fire Emblem fans don't hate Fire Emblem per se. Why that's like an annoying meme that should probably die off. A friend of mine bought Fire Emblem Warriors a little while ago, and we've been playing it. I actually spent like a ton of time playing it yesterday. It's so much fun. But oh my god, in some aspects it's a really bad game. But it's just fun. It's fine. I don't mind a game being bad as long as you're fair about it. You're like, okay, this game is kind of bad, but it doesn't mean you have to dislike it overall. You can just like the good things and hate the bad things. That's fine. But I found myself saying early on when playing that game and getting used to it and getting used to the controls and everything, it makes me just want to play through and like press the X and Y buttons and just smash through. I don't really want to like pause the game every now and then to redirect my NPCs or think about weapon triangle or stuff like that. I just want to smash things, you know? It's a button mashing game, and I think button mashing is really uninteresting, but it's also like it's really relieving to play. It's like stress relief. I think I called it that. It's like a stress relief game when I first played it, or when I first heard about it. You know, I didn't really mind, you know, a mind-numbingly easy-ish game. We're playing on normal mode, by the way, so that's just how casual we are about it. It's just like, you know, whatever. I just want to have fun and smash buttons. But when we mostly do co-op, but when I play one player, I actually enjoy the NPC management aspect of it a little more. It's kind of annoying with two players because you're like into a battle and then one person just presses start because one NPC is whining about how they're in trouble and they need to get healed or help, or the allied base is in trouble. By the way, the The constant pestering that the NPCs do for like, oh my god, the base is in trouble is so annoying. I also hate the tutorials at first, where like every 5 seconds there's a window popping up and Anna being like, I'm here to help or whatever. It's like, oh my god, shut up. It's like a lot of Fire Emblem characters talking as if they're like on an intercom with each other or like on a radio talking to one another. It's like, shut the fuck up and let me play. Jesus Christ. Still fun, but oh my god. Also, S ranking maps is totally dumb and boring. Like, it's almost the same goal. It's like, you gotta kill 2,000 characters, and sometimes you gotta do it within a certain amount of time, and you can't take this much damage, and it's like, bleh. And then in order to access some chapters, you need to S-rank like a bunch of them. It's really grindy. We're definitely not 100%ing this game, I'm pretty sure. It's kind of lame. I would have expected more real replay value. The history mode maps themselves are not that engaging either. They're just reused maps over and over. By the way, the reason I'm being so careful about Baldak is, as I said, he has a horse slayer, so that means he can one-hit my mounted units that are guarding the place. And I have to use mounted units because that way they cannot get captured. Like, if I were to use Orson, for example, who's doing absolutely nothing this entire chapter, if I were to use him with a bunch of scrolls but no weapons, if an armor has like really high build, he could get captured, and that would be really bad. So that's why I have to be very careful about this horse slayer guy instead. So I'm making sure not to kill the units immediately in front of Glade and Finn, the ones on the right of them, basically the X armors, because that way Baldak cannot reach them with the horse slayer. And I'm also trying to make sure that he cannot detect them at range either, because that would also be kind of annoying. So instead I'm using, I'm trying to get some EXP with O1 and Asphalt, but I'm doing it on characters that wouldn't allow Baldak to attack. And again, Baldak has that move in the start. But yeah, what I also don't like about Warriors is the fan service, obviously, but I've accepted that this is part of Fire Emblem now, and I hate it, but there's nothing I can do about it. But things like Camilla's victory scene are really stupid and shouldn't be in the game, but what can you do? That's life. Also, while we're entering the last third of this very enticing run of Mekkah talks through stuff, I am working on my 7K special, but it's a pretty big project. I mean, lately my specials have just been an excuse to post a random video and do something I'm normally not doing, and sometimes it's even something I'm normally doing, like 5K special. It's just Pitfalls, I think. Or was it? No, that was 6K, wasn't it? Anyway, I'm working on something, but it's going to take a while. So if I hit 8K in the meanwhile, don't fret over it. I'm just really glad to have so many people subscribe to my channel and watch my stuff. It's very, very weird to think of that many people watching my content, and I'm very grateful for it. But it's also a little bit strange. I love it though. I love talking to my, I guess, friends. I would say fans, but I don't want to say... I don't want to call people my fans, because it almost sounds like I'm not... Like, it doesn't sound like a very modest thing to say. But that's what it is, isn't it? I also started working on a project that I started about a year ago. I still haven't finished. I dropped hints of it during my FE4 playthrough with Arisa. It's still not done. Not nearly done. But when it's coming out, it's gonna be so much fun. I can't wait to show it, but I can't really talk about it because then it's not a secret anymore. I'm slowly running out of subjects, actually. Not quite, but I'm getting to the bottom of my list. Surely. Okay, so anyway, if the 7K special takes a while to come, don't worry, we'll make up for it with an 8K special, or I'll just post more videos at random times. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about privacy for a little minute. Let's take a step outside of Fire Emblem for a little moment. There's a viral campaign here in the Netherlands about privacy, responding to the whole Facebook drama of, like, I think it's called Cambridge Analytica, that got its hands on a bunch of Facebook data, and like more and more shit is leaking, and Mark Zuckerberg is being questioned by the Congress, or has been questioned by the Congress. And it's like a bunch of incompetent people asking him stuff like, hey, if your site is free, how are you getting money? And he's like, I run ads. I didn't watch the video, but I heard of it, and it's really stupid. But yeah, Facebook is super dumb, and This campaign was being led by a comedian of a Dutch TV show. His name is Arjen Lubach, or Arjen Lubach, if you prefer the English pronunciation. And he basically said he made he made an event for people to delete their Facebook profiles on 8 p.m. last Wednesday. And a lot of people did it, apparently. The event is gone too, of course, because the account is. Or because the event has passed. I don't know how Facebook events work. Oh, Trabant talks. So I'll shut up for a moment. Okay, so these are green units, but not the kind you might expect, the ones that just screw up and die. These guys can attack you, they won't attack the enemies, so they're basically enemies, but they're disguised as green units. The dialogue makes it pretty clear, I think, but you still gotta be a little bit careful. At this point, I think it's like turn 7 though, so I'm just being careful, because they only exist for a couple turns. This chapter only takes 10 turns total. One of the Dragon Knights has 10 moves, so I need to make sure that nobody with a horse is in his range, and Nana actually is right now, so I'm gonna dismount her so that she doesn't die. And I'm gonna keep the Armor Knights that surround Finn this time. I'm gonna keep them alive so that Finn cannot get attacked by him either. I think he might have like one hit on Finn because Finn is receiving like 40% of Void from Leaf and Anna. But even one hit is too much when you're dealing with one hit KO. So I'm just gonna be safe about it. And if that costs me a bit of weapon XP on Asvel and Olwen, that's completely fine. But yeah, funny NPCs. There's also going to be some reinforcements from the right side. A bunch of Dark Mages actually that just show up completely unannounced. And if you're holding the fort from the sides of Tara, like a lot of people are tempted to do, they want to go into like the choke points in the walls of the city, then you're going to get screwed over pretty bad. But it's not going to be too hard. I think they actually show up this turn. It's turn 9, and they only exist for 2 turns. I would be a lot more scared of the NPCs if they moved on turn 10 enemy phase, but they don't. Turn 10 has an enemy phase, but it doesn't have an NPC phase, so they actually don't move. I think it might be intentional because they would be able to get really close to you. If you actually broke out of the city and attacked a bunch of people and got through to like the actual boss and these priests, and you kill these Draco Knights before they reach the city, they're not really all that hard. And they give a bunch of XP, so I actually recommend killing them if you can get away with it, but for an Ironman run it's a little bit too risky. But I was just busy checking like, what are your movements, do you have like a movement star? But no, the boss just has a leadership star and that's it. Just making 100% sure I don't lose another unit this chapter. Anyway, I was talking about privacy. So basically people were supposed to delete their Facebooks, and I thought about doing it, but I decided not to, not because I think Facebook is fine and shouldn't be called out, because I think it's a good thing that he talked about this on a TV show that's like really popular and watched by a lot of people. And I'm glad people are deleting their Facebook, but there's no guarantee that Facebook deletes your profile if you actually try to delete it. It's actually kind of a complicated process to do it to begin with. There's the Dark Mages. Only one of them makes it to the middle, because they only have 2 turns. But yeah, my stance on the whole thing is, yeah, it's probably better to delete your Facebook profile, but it doesn't do all that much because the whole item that Lebec showed basically said Facebook has your data even if you don't have an account. They just have these little tiny pixel-sized buttons that will try to track you, and you can stop it. Like, you can install trackers like NoScript and that kind of stuff to make sure you're not being tracked, but it's really hard to do. Or at least it's not like hard for computer savvy people, but it takes some time to realize exactly what you gotta do. By the way, that spot that the Bow Knight is attacking Fergus from the house, it's kind of a weird spot because it's a red house, so they can walk on it. So that's why no one is on the left to leave, but Safi is safe on the right to leave, and that can screw you over sometimes. But I've already shown you can attack from there. But yeah, I'm in favor of like calling Facebook out and stuff, and the same goes for Google and like every other company that's selling user data. But it's going to be very hard to survive without a Facebook profile. like not survive, of course, but you miss a lot if you don't have it. And I don't do a whole lot on Facebook anymore, actually. It's not that important to me. So I could delete it without much repercussions, but there are some people I could only contact through Facebook, and I don't want to lose those, so I'm still trying to work out my own solution, but I would definitely recommend anyone to check out, you know, what Facebook actually does with your data and how much they know about you. So what else is there? Yeah, you can see these NPCs are not wanting to attack the Empire at all, like Travan said. Nana's too weak to kill this guy, unfortunately, but, you know, I got a certified Wyvern killer ready to kill. And these guys can't use Horse Slayers if they have them, because the Armor Knights are in the way. So Finn is perfectly safe. Javelin doesn't do like any damage, so even if one of these got like a very lucky one hit, it would still do like nothing. I watched The Last Jedi. I pirated it because I don't want to give Hollywood my money for making shitty movies. And I really didn't enjoy it. Like, I know it's been out for a while, but I didn't want to watch it in the cinema. So I just waited for a good quality version to be online, and oh my god, it's so bad. I mean, we can talk for hours about what was bad about it and what you didn't enjoy and what you did, and everyone has like different preferences. But my point is basically I didn't enjoy watching it, and I couldn't get into it. I was just constantly thinking, not, oh my god, what is this character gonna do next? I'm thinking, what is the director gonna make them do next? Because at this point, it's impossible to see a story from Star Wars any different from, you know, what direction is the director trying to go with this. And I felt like the movie, I'm not going to spoil anything about it, by the way, but I felt like it was trying so hard to subvert expectations from the audience and from the fans to the point where it happens like almost every time. And this really cool channel, Red Letter Media, pretty well known, they talked about this too. And I noticed that, like, yeah, at this point, the director can make them do almost anything because he doesn't want to be predictable, but by trying to be so unpredictable and trying to reverse so many expectations, he's actually become predictable to the point where I can be like, okay, he is probably going to go this way because the other way would be too predictable. And that took me out of the movie for a big extent. And also, I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, the acting was probably okay. I'm not like a certified movie critic or anything. Also, I'm trying to make sure that Asphalt has like a bunch of wind tomes you can use to grind some weapon rank on the last turn, kind of like Dun Dun did. Checking for Horse Slayers to see if I can mount Nana. The answer is yes. But yeah, I really didn't enjoy that movie, and I'm probably never going to watch a Star Wars movie in a theater ever again, because this feels like it's creatively bankrupt at this point. The last thing on my item of stuff that I want to talk about, besides the fact that Asphalt is here and he's faced like one hit from every one of these enemies, so I'm just going to get him as much wind XP as possible. The last thing I want to talk about is Thunderbirds. You know, I made that video a while ago, but I never like had a voiceover in it, so I can't really say anything about it, but Thunderbirds was my childhood, and I'm very glad that there exists a... Tina, can you stop missing, please? I'm very glad that there exists an adaptation, a modern day adaptation. It's like animated. It's not with real puppets, so it kind of takes away some of the charm. But it's so cool and neat and nice, and I love watching it so much sometimes. Like, whenever I have like a spare 20 minutes, I have no idea what to do, and I don't feel like playing Thracia, of course. Like, if I have like a couple spare moments, either I will do the preps for one of my Thracia chapters, or I'll watch a Thunderbirds episode. And, you know, the old Thunderbird episodes, they were like 40 to 50 minutes, maybe even an hour long or something, and they were so slow, but there was a lot of charm to them, and I think part of it is obviously just nostalgia and me loving it so much that I could tolerate it. But the new episodes, they're really fast-paced, you know, things happen a lot more quickly, but it's still just so charming and cool. There's some things I don't like about it, like how the Hood has to be the villain in like almost every episode. There is almost never a bad guy that isn't the Hood, and I also don't like how he's called by name. I think that kind of demystifies him. I like that he was like a very occasional, very rare villain in the originals, that would occasionally show up, and they would never call him by name. He was just like a random agent of evil, basically, that just popped up every once in a while. But a lot of the emergencies came through human failure and, you know, people being bad at being safe, or just natural disasters. Because not every problem has to be a villain trying to kill people or trying to get rich. You know, natural disasters happen, and that's totally cool. But still, that series is pretty awesome. The music is really good too. But of course I had to use the old track. It's just such a classic. And I think what made me make that video was that little sequence where that's different for every episode. Like, every opening of Thunderbirds is the same, except for that one part where they show like a bunch of really fast-paced scenes from all over the episode with like the really tense loud music behind it. I find it very hard to explain. I don't want to imitate it because it's going to sound stupid, but you know what I mean if you watch Thunderbirds. And I was like, that would totally work as like an opening for my Thracia run. So maybe I can do something with that. And I was like showing all these tense moments of my run and trying to match into the sounds. It took me like ages to edit, and it was so much fun. Unfortunately, it got like copyright flagged within seconds, so there's no way I can use it for my videos unless I want to demonetize them, but I don't want to. I don't want every one of my videos to be demonetized, so I couldn't do that, but I still had so much fun making it. I know it's like for a very small segment of my viewers. Like, it got barely any views compared to most of my stuff, but man. I mean, that's actually like got more views than like this Let's Play, but it didn't get as much like Pitfalls, for example. But it was so much fun to make. Like, that's what I really love about making YouTube videos, is not just making stuff that people will watch, but when I enjoy the making of a video, it's like the best hobby in the world. And just the anticipation of like the finished product and being like, oh my god, this is gonna look so cool, and I actually want to rewatch it while I edit it and stuff. Oh, by the way, we can't have a Thracia episode without a boss fight, so I might as well face this guy even though it's kind of risky. But I had faith. You know, Masterlands does 2-hit KO Asphalt. Masterlands is like a ranged Brave Lance. Asphalt missed the crit apparently. He has like... He should have close to like 80 crit or something with Leaf in range and Wind, because Wind is 10 crit. But for some reason he didn't crit. But he got added instead, so it's fine. Anyway, this is when the Thracians would move, but, you know, enemy phase is over, and they didn't have an NPC phase, so instead, the chapter is over. And Arion has a plan. I'm pretty sure I've seen this scene with Arion's portrait actually showing up, but I'm not 100% sure, so maybe this is a problem with the patch? I don't think so, though. Maybe I'm wrong about my memory. Alright, that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening to Radio Mekkah for an hour, and I'll see you next time. Bye.